How's it going, everybody? Welcome back for season 2 of the CCH podcast. This time we have a logo. We have all the same cast coming back, but we have a lot of guests that are going to be joining us. Of course, we're talking about all kinds of critters, conservation, and hiking. That's the name of the podcast. We mainly focus on pet care and hiking, conservation. We have a good mix of guests that talk about these different topics. I'm joined by Amelia and Josh. You guys can remember them from last season. And I'm also joined with a special guest here, long time in the making, trying to figure this out, all the logistics, but getting Mack Pridgen from Tar Heel Ants on here. Really excited to have this guy. He's a wealth of knowledge for ants, and he's just a cool guy. So we're going to have a really awesome conversation about a little bit of everything tonight. But with that being said, Mack, I mean, we can open it up to you, explain who you are. I don't think anybody's ever seen your face.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Mack Pridgen. Nice to be here. Appreciate you guys having me. I am the owner of Tar Heel Ants for the past 12 years now. We focus on making ant habitats primarily for pet ant keeping colonies. And just in the past, I'd say 5 to 6 years, have gotten to focus heavily on actually selling ants as well and raising them. And previous to that, we just did it pretty much just for fun, part of our knowledge building for building ant habitats. And then in 2019, we're able to start shipping some ants around the country, and it's really opened up the hobby. So, how did we begin? Back in 2011, I was in school and kind of was doing this as a side project for some topics for papers and stuff when I was in getting my degree at East Carolina University, and I started getting into it as a hobby more and more. And back then, there really wasn't a lot of ways to keep ants other than just plastic boxes and test tubes. So I tried my hand at making some and just got better at it over time. And here we are about like I said, about 12 to 13 years afterwards. And we're now in Raleigh, North Carolina. We have a retail location, and we do all our own in-house fabrication. So yeah, that's pretty much a good summary of what we're going to, what's up right now, at least.
It's open for you guys if you have any questions for him as we're starting up.
What's kind of the most challenging part of the business? Is it just kind of husbandry, sourcing materials, legal permitting and whatnot, or something else?
Yeah, pretty much all of the above. Yeah, that's I think the most difficult part is being one person trying to do a lot of that stuff. I mean, I'm not the only person who's involved at all, but my wife does a lot of making stuff for us, and she does a lot of the behind the scenes work as well. So she's a big part of what we do. We have other people who work with us from time to time, but as far as like the decision making process, you know, the ordering and materials acquisition, new product lines, you know, what custom orders to take and how to manage that, talking on the phone, all that stuff is pretty much in my ball field. So yeah, that's the biggest, hardest thing for me is just balancing all that and trying to be efficient with my time. And you know, trying to do things like this where I feel like it gives us a chance to get more involved in related fields and reach out, hopefully to expand the hobby. I mean, that's really what it's all about right now. We're still a very niche hobby. I'm sure you guys are in a growing field too, like frogs and toads. I'm sure it's bigger. I feel like that's bigger than ant keeping. But you know, we're both all growing, and you probably were at the same point we are now a while back, and know how it feels to be on the cusp of like getting some really big attention at times from you know, articles and being mentioned, you know, as a hobby, as a group of people being mentioned. And you know, it's exciting to kind of start having that happen more and more frequently, and seeing a lot more interest in ants as pets, hearing from museums from time to time. So yeah, I mean, it's just, there's so many different ways you get pulled. So being one person right now, as part of a business in this hobby is pretty challenging, just being in that position.
Do you guys mostly do local orders, or for being custom, are you looking at like a national scale? Like, I don't know what the logistics are of actually trying to ship ant colonies, and I'm sure there's some challenges there, especially with size. I'd imagine. Like, I don't know if you guys start with a small amount and you assume somebody could take care of an ant colony and it grows, or it's already a matured ant colony.
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's really part of what I focus on. So there's I'll tackle the shipping and providing the colony part first. So there's two ways to do it. The primary way that people do this is grabbing a queen off of a nuptial flight, and just to kind of summarize how ants reproduce. Once a year, they have a mating flight for each colony, and it's possible to have multiple, like over the short period of a couple of weeks, but they'll do a mating flight once a year where they all fly up in the air, the males and the females, and they do their mating. And so after the males and the females successfully mate, short time later, you can find the queens walking around the ground, and that's easy to walk around and pick up a whole bunch of them. And so most people will grab those queens, and in a very short time, as short as they can, will sell them, or just keep them for themselves. And the success rate of just having a queen from that first time where you catch her and then watching her develop and lay eggs and develop a colony, the success rate is very slim at first, and then as she lives longer and longer, the survival rate increases tremendously. I'm sure that's probably true with you guys are familiar with just having baby frogs. They don't all live in the very beginning, so it's very much the same with queen ants. They have parasites, lots of predators naturally in the wild. Things that we deal with after catching queen ants is getting them put in something like generally a test tube setup is most common, where it's set up properly. She has enough water to drink. It doesn't roll around and drown her. You don't drop and break it or overheat it. So there's lots of things that can happen in the beginning to make it challenging, just to get the queen ant in a position where she can be sold. And of course, there's different levels of care. Some people are brand new. They know queen ants are worth money, and they just will put them in anything, including Tic Tac boxes or little baggies, all kinds of stuff, and ship them across the country. The legality of things, however, is that you need a permit to ship ants from one state to another. And then when there is a state that is involved and then a non-native state as a destination, that is something that usually the permits are not accepted, not approved. So there's a lot of legalities involved. Why? Basically, the fire ants, the Solenopsis invicta, began a lot of laws to protect habitats. And
when you talk about there being more and more success over time, are you kind of talking about like with a keeper getting practice, or are you talking about with an individual ant getting more established and hardier and having better offspring, or both?
Yeah, both. Yeah. So, yeah, this is I'll go in circles. I'm one of those tangent people. So yeah, I'll get back to the legality, how things progress in just a minute with Pugottomyrmex occidentals. To answer your question, yeah. So when you first collect a queen, I've learned through the years it's best to get her immediately set up in something that's perfect for her, perfectly mimicking her natural condition. If you enter her somewhere where it's too warm for her, or it's too humid, or she is left in like a bright light condition where that's something that may normally not be part of her natural habitat. Obviously, some ants are more susceptible to that. So there's lots of little things that you can do to try to increase the chances of her success to get her to start the founding process quicker. You'll have ants that you'll catch, and they're supposedly going to lay eggs within a day. Some will wait a couple of weeks, and some wait until 4 or 5 months have passed when there's a different actual season involved. So all of those things are important to keep in mind, and reasons to go ahead and just let's get them somewhere safe quickly. And then you'll have people learning, okay, I'm going to set up a test tube for my queen ant. They use the wrong kind of cotton. They use a water from the tap that's going to create bacteria and change the cotton into a black, messy material in just a short amount of time. So there's definitely layers here of getting them situated and safe and happy that people, honestly, people who've been in the hobby for many, many years don't even think about. So, yeah, we're still in a very infant stage of the hobby, and we're learning.